have the new splitter over here, working on getting through this pile. We made a pretty good dent on it. Gotten most of the smaller stuff split up. Have a small pile of it here that I'll work on next. It's been doing a really good job, even with some of the knots and stuff. So this is our current setup. This still isn't welded on. I'm going to put a block in there, try moving it back just a little bit. I think that will be its final spot. So we'll end up cutting this off, moving it up here, and then mounting it so that it moves everything back. Because the only issue I've had is it is pretty close to this. So as you split, it's kind of getting into that valve there. So been working really well though. Still kind of putting it through its paces and just testing it. This is kind of its temporary location so we can get this done. Then we'll flatten out a spot here that'll probably live kind of here next to it, or may move everything kind of up the hill, this up, and then kind of put this in line with the building there. So anyway, had a little bit of time lapse already of getting some of this done, so I'll continue working on this to get as much done. Split up, so I'll get the tractor and everything started, get that trailer moved down here so I can just toss onto the trailer and keep working through this stuff to get it all wrapped up. Okay, so here you can see basically what I'm showing is I put a block in there to move that all back a little bit. So initially had that upright post right up against the metal, so it moved everything kind of closer in, which reach-wise was nice, but then you had stuff that was falling over hitting that lever. That all moved back a little bit, kind of puts the lever right in line with that, so it makes it a lot better. So here's kind of looking down. The one disadvantage or thing that we knew going into it was we have about 17 3/4, about 18 inches of clearance under the wedge to the bottom plate. Partially that's the cylinder, and partially by design. We didn't want anything too big up here. I've gotten better now, kind of cutting all the firewood at 16 inches, trying to get more uniform with some of that. But you know, sometimes you end up with a weird end piece that, you know, if it's 18 inches, it'll fit on our firebox, so just leave it. So we may have the occasional one that we need to kind of trim down, but this is all pretty old stuff that that's been around for a little while, or were the odd ends from like a log that we were going to mill up and had kind of an odd end or twist on it. So here's another day, just kind of working through this pile behind me, get it cleaned up. So the other day just did a handful of them. Today trying to get the trailer filled up here so that we can then put it in the firewood shed behind us. So make a pretty good dent, and this thing does help speed it up a little bit. Obviously a lot nicer to use, you're not hunched over using that, and with the smaller cylinder and everything, it does have a quick cycle time up and down, so it does help. And we haven't changed anything on the hydraulic side, still using the same motor and everything there. So just going through, getting this stuff stacked. Like I said, you know, it's kind of one of those chilly days. Good day to be messing with firewood. So after all the stuff we have here, plus the other stuff, end up getting this bay filled up nicely. And have a really good collection of wood here. Some oak, maple, a little bit of sycamore, and some cherry kind of mixed in there. So that oak's going to burn really well. Burns hot, burns for a long time, so it's kind of nice to mix it in with some of the sycamores and some of the poplar, stuff like that, that doesn't burn quite as long. So, you know, that poplar and sycamore gets started really nice and just doesn't last as long. So you can kind of mix it in with the different species and get a really nice fire going. So I have to tackle this in a few different sessions. So out here Again, kind of getting through some of it. Just trying to you know, clean up as much as possible, so go through and get as much as we can with this splitter. And then there's some pieces that have some pretty gnarly knots in it that we end up switching back over to the other splitter to kind of run it through that. Either they're too long, or you know, that other one we're not going to twist, we just really beefed it up, whereas this one angle iron really could be a little bit, or the I-beam really could be a little bit bigger. I think it's in this video, kind of show using it on some of the other stuff, and the way I have the camera set up, you can actually watch the top of the twist. So if you kind of watch that back and forth, you can see it moving just a little bit whenever you try to go through some of that harder wood. So one thing that is nice about this engine is it's pretty easy on fuel. The other one we had, though it had a little bit more power, seemed like you're always feeding it, whereas this one you can easily go you know, about 4 hours or so splitting and not have to fill it up. So got about just a little bit done. Had kind of more minimal time today, so just worked on getting a little bit kind of done, and along with kind of ran out of I guess you could say nice pieces to run to that splitter and need to switch to the other one. So wasn't sure I was going to get to that today, so I'll go ahead and just stack what I have so that it's not just sitting, and gonna get rained on whenever some of the storms move through. That way it can get to drying and be good firewood here in a couple years. So as I come up to move this trailer, so we did weld a panel hook on the trailer, and then we do have just a panel hook ball mounted onto the back of the grater box so that we can move stuff around. Right, so I think I have left the pieces that need to go on this other splitter. Two reasons. One, they're too long, we could cut them down, but a lot of these left have these really big knots in them, or just really goofy shaped. And while this splitter does a pretty good job, I think it is more susceptible to kind of bending, and just don't want to mess it up. Whereas this one, just a lot stronger, bigger cylinder and everything, so it's got a little bit more push anyway. So probably gonna put some of this stuff up there and get it split, and kind of go that route. But this thing's definitely much quicker. Pretty impressed so far. Been happy with it. Just nice working height. Can stand here at a decent height. Operate the lever, so I did put this kind of block in just to kind of represent, kind of basically putting, moving this back just to make sure that still happy with it, and that still seems to be fine. I don't feel like I'm leaning too far over where my face is here in this, so it's still a decent thing to where I can operate that and not be too far bent over. So so that'll be the next thing, is we'll take this back up to the house, and what we'll do is, this is just welded on here, so we'll just cut that off, move that up here, and then weld that onto the back of this. So we'll be doing that here at some point, and kind of just getting that finished up so that it's completely done. But nice thing is so whenever this finally gets its home kind of over this direction, we'll be able to, you know, leave it there and then just use these quick connects, these Pioneer fittings, and switch over from this side here on the new splitter, and just put it back onto the old splitter with that fitting just quick connected back. So that was kind of the idea there, to make it swappable. And because many times we're gonna have circumstances like this where, you know, you're splitting along, and most of the stuff can be split with this, which is quicker and much easier on the back and everything. But then you're gonna have these pieces here that are just gonna be too much for it. So the stuff back there pretty similar. Most of that's going to be okay, but they have pieces like that one there by the tarp right there that's got that big knot and everything on the side, so it's going to be pretty rough to split, but most of the other stuff is going to be pretty easy. So that would be kind of another circumstance where we'll probably try to get through most of that with the vertical splitter and do that, and then switch back over to this one for anything that's got knots and you know, things like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and stack what we have here and get that wrapped up for these pieces, and then I'll have to move this. This is just kind of a temporary spot while we got all of this stuff cleaned up, so I have to get this moved over before I can use that because it's just kind of in the way right now. So I'll be working on that as well to get everything swapped around and yeah, get that set up. Alright, so we moved this thing around and got over to some of the smaller wood. It's been sitting on the ground for probably about a year. We brought it from the 100 acres and basically had to go through and put it in the dump trailer, brought it back, and I was splitting out of the dump trailer, just couldn't get to it fast enough before we needed it again, so it got dumped. And then just with all the other projects going on, hadn't gotten to it. So got this thing moved around there and started working on it. You can see I kind of have a pile on the left that I'm just throwing on the ground. It's stuff that's pretty mealy, just because it's been sitting so long. But a lot of what we have here is some red oak, and pretty good. Well, no, so if you watch just above my head there, to the upright for the I-beam, you can see it does twist just a little bit, which I find interesting. You know, we beefed all that up pretty well, but you still have a little bit of twist in that, that's just something we're not going to get rid of. But get that split up and go ahead and get this stacked. We're getting pretty close, I think, to kind of what this will hold. I can't remember if we have one more row to go or if this is the last one, but basically what we have back there that was good, kind of usable wood, ends up filling this up. Like I said, there's quite a bit of it that's been back there for a while and had been sitting at the 100 acres already for some period of time, so unfortunately I didn't get all of it before it kind of got some rot in it, and some of it just wasn't great to begin with. So you know, it's one of those things that we try to get as much as we can out of it, but there's a certain point at which we have so much, you know, good wood that you know, we may not spend our time with some of that other stuff that, you know, doesn't have or isn't as good a quality. Did have a couple instances where we got the wedge kind of stuck down in the log and then had to get it off. And there we were just talking about the wood that was left may not be really worth messing with. Kind of went through and tested a little bit more after the camera there just to see if there was anything else, but kind of ran out of what was really usable. So go ahead and take the last of this and end up having to stack a little bit of it over there in bay 1. But thank you for watching. Be look out for more on that vertical splitter. I'll be using it a lot more to do bag firewood and all kinds of other stuff, so hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, I'll catch you next time.